Alrighty, so we're moving on to 18.2, part 2. So we are just going to focus on congruent figures and what it means for shapes to be congruent. So if you take a look at these examples, they all have the same size and shape. So the way that you can be sure that figures are congruent is to put one on top of the other and they would fit exactly. So, can two figures appear in different positions to be congruent? The answer to that is yes, if they're the same shape and size. So, again, you can figure that out by placing one on top of the other. So, if we take a look at some shapes, these are all not congruent shapes. Now, the first two are both triangles. So they are considered the same shape, but if you look closely, if we stacked one on top of the other, this bottom one is clearly larger than the top one, so they're not the same size. Now these two are not the same shape and also not the same size, and these both are just not the same shape, so it does not show congruent figures. All right, so now a lot of these are going to say trace and cut them out, which isn't really an option for us right now. So we're going to do our best to just eye them and look closely in order to figure it out. So for number 10, they want us to decide whether these shapes are congruent. So we need to keep in mind, are these the same shape and are they the same size? So we should be able to look closely and be able to tell. So looking at these two shapes, if we stack those, they would line up. So yes, these two triangles are congruent. Now if we look at these two, if we put this one on top of the other, they definitely do not line up. So these are not congruent. Now again, these we were talking about the fact that they can turn, they just have to be the same size and shape. And these, although it's turned, if we stack them, they would be the same size and shape. So these are congruent. And our last one, again, this one's turned a little, but if we were to cut both out and stack them, they would fit and be congruent here. All right, so this is an optional part that you can go back to slide 28 and try this if you would like, drawing some congruent hexagons and then another one that is not. And you can do this on your GeoBoard app if you'd like. You can create the shapes on there and then compare. And if you want to take a screenshot and upload to Seesaw, I would love to see if you give it a try. All right, so take a look at our United States flag. Now, I hope all of us know how many stars are there because we've talked about this before. So there are 50 stars on there because of our 50 states. Now, are all of the stars congruent? Take a look at those stars. Could we stack them? Are they the same size and shape as each other? The answer is yes, we could stack those and they would all be the same shape and size. Now, they want us to identify the shapes or the stripes that are congruent here, okay? So if we take a look at the flag, there's two sets of congruent lines here. So if we look at this first chunk of stripes, okay? These are all congruent with each other. We could stack these and they'd all be the same shape and size. And then we also have this bottom area of stripes that would all be the same size and shape as well. So there are two sets of congruent stripes here. All right, so again, this is your let's practice. This is what you'll be doing to practice identifying congruent shapes today. Obviously, we cannot trace and cut out these figures, so you need to do your best to kind of visualize it. So you have to decide true or false with all of these. And then obviously, again, we can't trace and cut these out, but decide which of these is congruent, and you can just circle that. Now remember, once you finish this slide for Let's Practice, slide 30, raise your hand on Class Kick for me to check. And then you guys are doing your workbook pages 204 and 205. Please post a picture of your workbook on Seesaw once you finish.